Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick Rauland, and I'm talking here with my good friend, Nathan Ingram. How you doing?
I'm great, Patrick. How are you?
Doing good. Just getting over technical difficulties, but we're figuring it out.
A lot of technical difficulties when these online events.
So we are going to talk today about virtual WordCamps. But before we get into virtual WordCamps, why don't you just tell me, have you been to a WordCamp before and how many?
So I've been to somewhere over 50 WordCamps, getting close to 60. I definitely would have broken 60 by now, but of course the WordCamp traveling is down to very little now. But yeah, so over my left shoulder here are badges from some of the WordCamps where I've spoken. Everyone has great memories, great people. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I've gone to a bunch of WordCamps, I think since 2013, but I'm probably around 20, nowhere near your 60. But they're great. And I don't know about you, Nathan, but I can attribute 95% of my success to going to WordCamps and meeting the right people, learning the right technologies, and just getting connected. And maybe even what are the good blogs to follow? Just all those little things that set me up for success later. And now that we're going virtual, the conversation today is how do you get the most out of a virtual WordCamp? And I know you went to WordCamp Kent, WordCamp Denver, and I think one other one. San Antonio. And I was the lead organizer for WordCamp Denver. And we were planning a physical event. And then with COVID-19, we're moving it to virtual. So let's just talk about what are some of let's start with some of the pitfalls of a virtual WordCamp. And then maybe let's go into how we can make them better.
Sounds great.
So yeah, what do you think are some of the pitfalls of a virtual WordCamp?
So, I've said for years that the best thing about WordPress is not the software, it's the community. And, the beauty of WordCamp, like you just mentioned, is going to meet in different cities and meeting people. Either you're traveling to a city or it's your own city. You get to connect with other people using WordPress. And it's just the most remarkable thing. I've been in lots of different communities in my life, in nonprofit world, in professional world, in different tech circles, and there's just nothing like the WordPress community out there. I'm completely and continually amazed by just the giving nature of people. Yeah. And like you just said a minute ago, so much of what I've been able to do professionally in WordPress has to do with just connecting with people and getting to know people and who've given me shortcuts and things to think about that I haven't thought about before. And WordCamp, for me at least, has been the primary venue for that happening. And it's hard to reproduce that virtually.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very hard. So we did try to do a couple things for WordCamp Denver to bridge that gap, but it's very hard. And there were also some unexpected things, just with the technical aspects that I didn't foresee. So one of the things you wrote down here is so we have what we thought would be nice is we put a picture of the speaker next to their slides. And at the bottom, it says the name of their talk and the name of the speaker. And that's good. But what we didn't think of is that makes all of your slides about 2/3 of their original size.
Right.
So then when people had lots of text on the slide, it's really hard to see.
It is. And honestly, it's even at a lot of WordCamps, even in person, people tend to have small print on the slides. Yeah. And so, even in the room, the text, especially you're getting older. If you get older like me, you're I can't read any of that. And especially in a virtual sense. And sometimes, if you're on a large screen, you can zoom out or make your window bigger or whatever. Yep. But even still, it can be very difficult to see some of that small print.
Yep. And we did recommend that people check out the WordCamp website on their laptop in one of the emails, but there's no guarantee. Maybe people don't even have a laptop, right? We can't guarantee that. And if hopefully you're on a big screen, you can blow it up a little bit, but we can't even guarantee that. But it's something to consider for future speakers. If you're watching this, please basically only use giant text.
Yeah,
I think that'll make it legible for everyone.
Yeah, my rule of thumb has been, even for on-screen in person, and it still works good for these live events, 24 pixels is probably the lowest you want to go, and that's only if you have to. You really want to be in the 30s or 40s with most of your text.
Yeah, that's a great one. I also noticed, so me being the lead organizer, one of the things I didn't communicate, because this is something we do in person, is when we have an MC, we say, hey, you're setting up your laptop, you're getting ready, don't forget to turn off your phone. We didn't tell that to speakers. And so a couple speakers had their phones going off and Slack messages going off. And you can't easily tell a speaker that without interrupting them, and you don't want to ruin their flow. And it was just an extra thing to consider is the digital distractions.
Right. Yeah. So there's a whole list of things that I tend to give. I will give away to presenters who come on iThemes training with us and do webinars. But yeah, one of those things is figure out what the do not disturb mode is on your machine that you're presenting on, and do it. On a Mac, it's real simple. Up at the top right, you click the little list and scroll up, and there's a do not disturb toggle, and there's no notifications. There's nothing worse than sharing your screen, and your wife sends you a text that you don't want broadcast to the rest of the world. Not that that's ever happened to me, but theoretically, that's probably not something you want to happen.
Yeah, yeah, lots of stuff. And then there were some things that were totally unexpected. So, Nathan, how did your talk go?
Well, it was great for about 10 minutes. And then this inexplicable thing happened, and I went through the day frustrated after this, to be honest. It was incredibly frustrating, but I could not stay connected. And I don't know, people, I'm getting some really good natured ribbing about, hey, Nathan needs to upgrade his internet. But, I'm like, I am hardwired into fiber that is literally less than 2 feet from my laptop. Like I get 900 up and down. So it is not me.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it was, but I tried to reconnect, and we reconnected, and I stayed connected for about 2 or 3 minutes, and it dropped again. And it was just one of those things.
Yep. So one of the things I think we did okay was we had all these standard operating procedures laid out. So we had a whole document for the moderators to look at. And we said at 8 minutes, you just call it. Like, because by that time, so much time has gone by that it's just not worth trying to bring them back. If the speaker can come back in less than 8 minutes, then keep going. That was great to have standard operating procedures, which, by the way, is probably good for your business as well. But standard operating procedures, like the mod knew exactly what to do, and they handled it. And maybe we'll record your talk later and send it out, or something, right? We'll figure out something. But that was
for sure
handled. The other thing that was a little bit tricky is we had the live stream go down for about 8 minutes on Saturday morning. Now, I'm super impressed because we work with professionals. Blaze Streaming Media is the people who helped us do the live streaming. They had a backup live stream ready to go. They told us to switch it. We went into our page. We switched it, told everyone to refresh the page. And in 8 minutes, everything was back up and running.
That's fabulous.
So the 2 lessons I've learned so far: have standard operating procedures and work with smart, professional, not successful, but like accomplished people who can do things well. Because that saved, we could have lost the entire beginner track, but because they had a backup live stream already set up in YouTube, we were able to solve it. And I'm super grateful for that.
Oh yeah. Having a professional, in the field who's behind the scenes making all those things happen, that is the best thing. I think it was Chris Lemma. He put this on a t-shirt, one point. He said, if you think hiring a professional is expensive, try hiring an amateur.
Yeah.
So I love to see that principle in practice here with the WordCamp.
It's great. Yeah, they paid for themselves, 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let me go into. We had a few hiccups. The WordCamp community is still learning how to live stream. However, I think there are some really good things that we got out of it. I want to start with one of the things that I appreciated was we did coffee Saturday morning. Now, we had an official start time of like 9 or 9:30, and then an hour before or half hour before at 8 or 8:30, whatever it was. We had 2 people, David Hayes and Ann Pohl. David Hayes is our local coffee snob, and I say that lovingly. He uses that term himself, and he's very particular about his coffee. He heats it to a specific temperature, and he pours in like 12.5 ounces or milliliters of water, whatever. He showed us all that, and it was actually a very cool opportunity to connect with people. And it was on the schedule. You don't have to show up. You can come in just for the sessions if you want. You could ignore our silly, whimsical session, but so many people appreciated it. And I think one of the hard things about online WordCamps is it's hard to connect with people. And I kind of hope more WordCamps have extra events at either the start or the end. And maybe it's like a board game thing, or it's a bingo game, or it's a coffee in the morning, or I hope we have more of those extra events at the start or end, because you can show up whenever you want. And in the chat, you should have seen the chat. It was great. People were like, "Oh, I never knew this." It was cool to see people chat that way.
Yeah, I absolutely loved seeing that on the schedule. It's those little touches, I think, that will make these virtual WordCamps stand out, because everybody's doing virtual events these days. They're a dime a dozen, and WordCamps are free, which is wonderful. But you lose the local flavor. So I love what you guys did as well, which was bringing in live local music into the breaks, from local musicians. That was fantastic.
Yeah, we just got 5 local bands to give us permission, and we just took their existing YouTube videos and pulled them down and helped them format it right the correct way for Blaze, and they did the rest. But we just got permission from them, asked them if it was okay to basically share their music, and they gave us permission, and we shared on the live stream. And I do think that's cool.
Very cool.
I just want to see more. Right? What else? How else can we bring local into an online event? Because I do think it makes it different, and it makes your event from a dime a dozen into something special.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you. So obviously you can engage in the chat with either the attendees and maybe the speaker after the talk. But like, what else can you do? Do you have any ideas on how else you can connect virtually? Because that's the biggest thing I'm missing. I'm still getting the really good technical talks. I'm still taking lots of notes. I'm still getting slides and whatever. But that's the one big thing I'm missing. Do you have any other ideas on how to connect?
Yeah, that is so tough. And I've really been thinking about this over the last few months since we've been doing these virtual WordCamps, because one of the things that I love the most about WordCamps, both as an attendee and as a speaker, is that if the speaker says something that piques my interest, well, then I can grab her or him after the talk and, pick their brain, right? And in these virtual in these virtual events, there's not a very easy way to duplicate that. I mean, you could have a Zoom room, and we did with Nexcess. We had a Zoom room where I was available after my talk, and Corey Ashton was as well, and some of the others. But you have several people there, and some people may feel intimidated to speak when there's others around, whereas they wouldn't if you're kind of one-on-one. It's a hard problem to solve, and I'm not sure anybody's done it that well yet.
Yeah, I think I don't know if there's. It might be a software solution I'm imagining, but one of the things I like at WordCamps is you can go, oh, I heard them talking about e-commerce. I want to join that conversation because I love chatting about e-commerce, and someone mentioned they're using the new MailChimp for WooCommerce plugin, whatever it is, and I want to join that conversation, and I can do that in a WordCamp, and people are totally used to just like walking into the circle and jumping in, and you can't overhear conversations online. You're either in the talk or you're not, which is a little tricky. There was one other thing that I appreciate about this WordCamp is never have I ever found it so easy to switch tracks, because I just had 3 tabs open on Saturday, and I was like, oh, cool, let me listen to the beginner track. And I was really digging that. I forgot what the first talk was. I was really digging that. And then I switched to the marketing track for a little bit. I'm like, oh, this is cool, but maybe I'll want to go back to the beginner. And then I went to the dev track, and it was so easy. And you're like, because I'm used to doing that at WordCamp Denver. I'm used to going in between the rooms just to make sure everything's running. But you're always making noise, right? You're opening the door at the back, and then you have to walk in front of someone to see the speaker. And there's no interruptions.
Or you pretend like you get a notification on your phone, and you look out looking at your phone when actually you're not involved with the talk at all. You do that little fake thing.
Yeah.
It's so hard to walk out, if a talk isn't for you. And even though we tell people, look, at a WordCamp, we want you to be served the best. So if this talk is not for you and you know that, you're happy to exit. But what's a great point that you just made of just being able to flip back and forth between tracks is literally no hassle whatsoever.
Yeah, I had all 3 of them running. I switched between muting, right? So I just went to mute this one, go to this one, unmute, and jump right in. Read the back scroll of the chat, which is super cool.
Right.
Actually, that's something that's worth talking about. So in a chat, there is the ability to communicate about the talk without interrupting the speaker. There is value in that, right? You can be like, hey, he recommended a SEO plugin. What's your favorite SEO plugin? Without interrupting the speaker.
Right.
I love all this. The biggest thing is just that last connection piece of like, how do you connect with people and make friendships and work with them a year or 2 down the line? And I haven't 100% figured that out.
I don't know the answer to that either, unless it's Zoom breakout rooms or some kind of tech solution to this where it can, in a virtual way, replicate that open circle of communication that you get in the hallways at WordCamps. I would love to see that problem solved.
Yep. All right. So I think last question here, what is so if you're an attendee, maybe you've never even gone to a regular WordCamp, but it's definitely your first virtual WordCamp. What would be your single biggest piece of advice for them?
Oh man. Okay. So WordCamps are like drinking through a fire hose, right? Like you cannot consume everything. And so the one mistake that I see people make at WordCamps is they're taking all this stuff in and they've got all these notes, and then they go home and 6 months later and they've done nothing with it, right? because I've got so much. So what I try to tell people to do is after every WordCamp, just take a look at those notes and pick one or two things that you're going to do. If you're a business owner, you look at some of the great tips that you've gotten from business people in the WordPress space that are doing it well, and just take one or two of those things and apply them. If you're a developer, one or two of those little things that you learned about, just start to put those into your workflow. You can do one or two things, but if you try to do 4 or 5 or 6, you'll get 0 done. If you try to do one or two things, you'll get probably 1 or 2 things done.
Yes, always a good idea. And I'm always energized. Even this is a virtual WordCamp, but I was definitely energized by it. And there was a content talk, and maybe it was the workshop at some point. And I have so many ideas on content for my podcasting site where I talk about this other stuff, and over here this other. I run so many websites, but you have to prioritize, right? You have to be like, okay, I can't do everything. What is like either the 1 or 2 big things that I want to get done?
Right.
Absolutely. Right. Love that. Huh.
So how about you? Right. What would be your advice for people attending virtual WordCamp?
I want to say, I think the biggest thing for me is to find a couple sessions that you really look forward to and make sure you hit those, and make sure you hit those with like energy. I forgot to mention this. We had yoga before Friday, and it was literally, and it was like a 30-minute class, but it was just decompress from your day, forget, close your inbox, don't look at it. And then it was, let's focus on WordCamp. And I think some people, like the downside of virtual is like you can also check your email. You can also text people. You could be watching Netflix on the side, right? So I think the biggest thing is to like focus on a couple of really important talks for you, find 3 of them in the schedule, highlight them, and definitely show up for those. And one of the best things about a virtual event is you can come or leave at any time. So you could, if you want, sign up and only show up for 3 talks if you want to. I took a walk with my dog for a walk Friday night. And then, of course, it started raining in Denver, and I got stuck outside for a little bit longer than I wanted, which was not great. But like, you can do that. Like, just come for 3 talks if you want. Just look forward to something, because there is value in like looking forward to a thing. I think you enjoy it more. You get into it more. Maybe even prepare. You're like, okay, so maybe you prepare some questions that you might want to ask those speakers. I think look forward to 3 to 4 talks and make sure you show up for those, and close all the distractions, like close your texting app, close Slack, close your email, and just like be present. And I know it's tempting, right? To when a speaker is having technical problem or whatever, there's technical problems, or it's slow, or you got there 5 minutes early, you want to like answer some emails, but just resist that urge. And then I think you can take in the information better, and then maybe even action on it better.
I think you're exactly right. That's great advice.
Cool. Nathan, thank you so much for your time and answering my questions. You're an even bigger WordCamp expert than I am. So thank you for your insight onto how to rock a virtual WordCamp.
Oh man, no, my pleasure. Great to chat with you, Patrick.
Cool. Great.